Hey everyone, I know it's been a minute since we've dropped an episode, and I know I mentioned a season one wrap up. I think I just really needed that minute to truly reflect on the journey this podcast has taken. On this episode, though, you get to meet the team Aileen, Meg, and myself. And this time, I'm the one who's getting interviewed by Aileen and Meg, and we talk about how this podcast got started, what we've learned, the rewards and the challenges, how great it is working with small artists, and what it's like for me to be in the entertainment and music industry. I want to take a moment, though, to thank all of the artists who have opened up on this show and have given this show a chance. It's really, really hard to trust a stranger, let alone a stranger who just started this little project and is asking people to open up to her. So a huge thank you to them. Another huge special thank you to both Aileen and Meg, who have not only been a source of moral and emotional support throughout all of this, but who have taken their own time to believe in this project and put labor into it. Through listening to these episodes, giving me feedback, editing, posting on Music Mentality's Instagram, recruiting artists to be on the show, along with so many other things, they have really made this project possible. So yeah, just a thank you to this entire community. I'm eternally grateful for you all. And I truly, truly cannot stress this enough, that this is just the beginning, and I cannot wait for season 2 to come around.
Okay, well, I just want to begin by talking about the fact that our first interaction ever, the first time we had ever met each other, was right after you had the idea to start this. So explain where you were before you really knew me. What made you come up with this idea? What inspired you?
Well, first of all, I'd love for you to introduce yourself so the listeners know whose voice they're listening to.
Okay, so actually this is really funny because most of the time when I teach my swim classes, I won't realize until after, but I have never introduced myself to my kids. So I'll get to halfway through a session of swimming lessons and I'll be like, "What's my name?" And all of my kids are like, "You never told us." I'm Meg. I'm Angie's roommate and the social media manager of Music Mentality. That's all I'm gonna say about myself.
Bro, you could say so much more, but I'm not gonna lie. For those who have been listening to this podcast, they've probably heard your name and who you are so many times, and chances are they probably know things about you that you don't even realize they know.
That's very fun. That's exciting.
Well, sitting with us today here is also my lovely best friend and
my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so hi guys. My name is Aileen. I am the editor of this podcast, and I'm very happy to be here. This is a big moment for us. It's the end of season 1. I mean, how many episodes do we have? 10?
Bro, no.
No, we have more than that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I should know this. I'm the editor.
No, it's fine. I'm the host and I don't even know. I think we have 18.
Okay, that is so impressive. This literally came from an idea. Ange has so many ideas all the time. And this one just really stuck and it grew and it's it continues to grow and it's offering so many opportunities and it's bringing each of us joy. It's so exciting.
Honestly, this is I feel such an interesting moment just because, Meg, you met me after this idea. You and I met quite recently, back in October. So we've known each other for maybe 10 months. Aileen, she has been my neighbor growing up, so she has seen me and all my impulsiveness growing up. She has seen me dedicate myself to piano, fail my piano. She has been through all of that. So the newer version of me. Aileen has seen the older version of me. So it's really interesting to be sitting here and analyzing all these different versions of me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, can I just say that neighbor is not an accurate label for me? I'm your best friend for several years.
She has been my sister from another parent. I was gonna say mister, but 2 different parents. Okay, so circling back to the origins of this episode, Meg, would you want to repeat the question?
Yes. Oh my god. Okay. So, back at it. So, the first time I met you, you actually brought up the fact that you had just come up with this idea to create a podcast. And you hadn't started it. I don't even think you had bought the materials for it yet. It was just hey, I started thinking of this, and I've been researching into it to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, so,
explain the process, like, from idea to your first interview. What was that like?
I think one of the things that I'm most known for is my impulsivity. I mean, I'm sitting here after an impulsive haircut and hair dye today.
Yeah.
Guys, I literally, at, 4 o'clock after I got my hair cut, Ange decided she wanted to go back to having short hair.
You inspired me.
Oh, I didn't even cut my hair short. So, we cut it this afternoon.
Yeah.
I cut her hair to just above her shoulders, and we're dyeing it after we finish this interview.
Yeah, so I've been impulsive, and Aileen has seen my impulsivity growing up. So, I mean, when it came to this show, to be totally honest, it was an impulsive idea as well. That being said, it was an impulsive idea that I, like, hyper-fixated on long term. Like, I'm still hyper-fixated on this idea. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it started off with me just, like, filming a random TikTok and being like, oh, how cool would this idea be? Like, if I interviewed artists and, like, picked their brains for, with their mental health struggles growing up, like, how did they come to create their art? Where did that come from? How did their mental health play a role in it? Just because I know it's something that speaks volumes to me, and mental health has been something that I've been really passionate about. So I was like, okay, I posted that on TikTok, and I was like, oh my God, but like, what if no one would want to be an artist or a guest on this show? And then I got like 4 comments, not 40, not 400. I got 4 comments. 2 of them were mine. That were like, yeah, just do it. And I was like, okay, I've been convinced. So here I am, invested in like a $60 Amazon microphone, nothing too expensive or anything, and started it off from the comfort of my bedroom at the time in my parents' place. And again, to be honest, I did give it a lot of thought afterwards. Like, once I committed to the idea, I remember, like, you guys are so cute holding hands. I remember, like, taking an Adderall and hyperfixating on the intro page that I would send to artists. And
oh my God, I remember this.
Yeah, I spent 8 hours on Adderall picking a font.
What font did you go with?
What font did I do? You
remember? You spent 8 hours picking it, and she can't remember.
Guys, I went through every single font on Google Docs, on Word, and Microsoft Office, picking the perfect font. I don't remember the name of the font.
You left out Pages?
And
does Pages have nothing to offer you?
Did I not say Pages?
Did you?
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
That is okay.
No, you said Google Docs, Microsoft, and Microsoft, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. I went through, like, all of the different fonts. And I don't remember what it came down to, but I remember being like, it's serious, but it's just fun enough that, like, it shows my fun side, but it's not too fun, that where it's, like, she's unprofessional. And then I remember, like, searching up different lawyers and stuff to, like, draft up a contract for this, because I was like, okay, if we're going to take this seriously, I'm going to take this seriously and prep for, what, like, if I were to ever go big and, like, you know, interview different artists who, like, might sue me one day or something, just, I mean, not that I'm suable or anything, but, like, you know, like a talent release form. I felt like there must be some kind of paperwork that would be important and would also show that I am taking this seriously and I am professional about this. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, $60 for my microphone, my sister's old bedroom, which was my bedroom at the time at that point, and 8 hours of picking a font later. Here we are. But that being said, like, this has gone through many stages where I drafted up the questionnaire and had to, like, revise it several times. Aileen, like, she has been my main source of inspiration when it came to being curious and inquisitive and, like, knowing how to ask people questions, because, like, I think that your superpower is listening to people, and you're always so good at asking questions. So, like, you taught me how to do that growing up. Like, you are the reason that I'm able to ask questions. And even then, it's like I'm still learning and I'm constantly inspired. But I got you.
You are really great. You're literally a natural at this.
Thanks, bro. I try. Meg, don't worry. I will come around as to how you inspired me to.
No, I think that there's no doubt that I've never met anyone else ever who asks as many questions as Aileen does.
I know, right?
And it's amazing.
I know, like, every interaction is, like, not an interview, but kind of an interview. Like, every interaction we have with Aileen, we're like, oh, wow, I didn't notice that about myself until you asked that question.
I didn't know I had so much to say about this topic.
I didn't realize I went through so much trauma over this topic.
Yeah. Asking questions is a superpower.
It is a superpower. It's a superpower that you teach people. So good on you.
Thank you.
But yeah, then I switched bedrooms. And when I switched bedrooms, you know, like, again, first of all, I want to say sometimes it's really obvious when I'm using a $60 microphone, especially at the beginning. I really didn't know what I was doing. I remember my first episode or the first interview that I recorded, I was like, oh my God, I'm good. And then the second one, I was like, oh wait, I'm shit. And then that's when you actually taught me like the 4 stages, which I can't recite right now, but Meg, I would love for you to recite them.
It goes, and I might be wrong about this, but it's conscious competence, unconscious competence, or unconscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence, conscious competence.
There it is.
Basically, you go through you have no idea what you're doing, and you think that you're doing really well because you start off at piano and you can remember where the G, key is. And then you learn more notes, and then all of a sudden only knowing where G is just isn't really something that's good anymore. And because you know what being able to play good piano is, you realize how bad you are at playing piano. And then because you're dedicated to learning piano, all of a sudden you're playing well, but you're not necessarily like realizing you're playing well. And then after that, it's like, oh no, I know what I'm doing, and I know that I'm doing it well.
But then it becomes an unconscious practice, or no,
Yes.
it stays conscious. What's the last step? Like, what's the higher self of that?
It's definitely that you're doing it unconsciously. I might have messed it up, the order. It might be unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. Well, I like felt myself transition into that where I was like, oh wait, like I'm actually not that good. How can I improve? And again, like my support system helped me so much through improving, both like physically understanding why my microphone wasn't doing as well, and also the quality of the questions and the quality of the interview. So when I switched rooms, I realized that that room was a little bit larger and, you know, more echoey. So it didn't work out well. So it moved over to my closet, and like that's where a lot of my interviews came to happen, from the comfort of my closet with all the clothing, where I filmed like all of my intros in Aileen's closet and stuff, like with the clothing muffling it. So finally, when I moved out with Meg, I turned half of my bedroom into a makeshift office where I got like noise canceling drapes, and like half my room has these noise canceling foam squares. If you're a musician, you probably know what I'm talking about. I forgot what they're called. But I mean, still off a $60 microphone. But you know what? We're growing. We are improving little by little. I mean, I have an office, mind you, it's in my bedroom, but it's an office.
It is an office, and there is a curtain between the bed and the office.
Dividing
So,
it, exactly. It's 2
yeah.
different rooms.
You have a bedroom and an office.
Yeah, she thought through this office for a long time. I mean, the office was the most important part of her bedroom. Like, it had to be perfect. We went through so many ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess yeah, that's kind of where I began. Like, impulsive idea, Adderall, cheap microphone, and noise canceling drapes.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Go team.
Right?
So what has been the most rewarding part of all of this?
Oh my God. I mean, obviously, like meeting the different artists, but to go into detail about the rewards that came from all of these artists was honestly learning so much about myself. And like, these interviews have been therapeutic for me, and I've gotten so many comments from artists saying that it was therapeutic for them, which was so rewarding, knowing that like this podcast is helping people. It is building a community, slow and steady. It's not where I want it to be yet, but it is happening, and that on its own is success, which I feel like that is such an improvement from where I started, where I was like, oh, I want high numbers because high numbers equal success. But now I'm like, hey, I have a little office in my bedroom and it's not a closet anymore. That is successful. Like, there are people who are emailing me who are like, hey, I've listened to your podcast and I'm like, I really love it, and I'm so inspired by it, and that is successful. Like, hearing these different artists who, you know, tell me that they've never gotten the opportunity to share the things that they have shared with me before, that is so rewarding. And I think just knowing that like there are artists helping artists through this, like this channel, this podcast being the channel that helps each other. Oh my God, that's like amazing, knowing that like this podcast is introducing different people to each other, to me, to my friends. It's like we've jammed out with some of the people who have been on this show. Like, that is so rewarding. And I think that is like the main thing that keeps me going, because I'm not gonna lie, this thing gets really difficult sometimes, and I get demotivated sometimes. But like, just looking at the big picture and knowing that not only has it helped people, but it has connected people truly, that is the most rewarding part.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You've really been able to like offer up a safe space for all these artists and like talk about these really like taboo subjects. Like, I don't really want to call mental health issues or mental health in general like taboo, but vulnerable. I mean, you really got people to be vulnerable with you, and it's so rewarding. Like, I can hear these artists, like their guard comes down around you, and you should be so proud of yourself that you've created this community.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you. I honestly am very proud, but again, like, this is, you know, I started this podcast constantly saying, you know, I'm doing this, me, but like, it is not a me project. At this point, all I'm doing is like, I'm doing the talking, but like, you guys are helping with the creative projects. Meg, that is how I'm so inspired by you. You are like the source of my creativity. So many of my conversations are wrapped around my experiences with you guys and my support systems. So like, that alone, regardless of whether or not you guys are part of this project, knowing that I have a support system who supports me with all of this, I get to experience so many things through you and bring that into conversation and get other people's opinions and like help other people with that. So it's like, I've never felt alone through this process, and that has been, you know, I'm so thankful for that. I'm so grateful for that, because it's a passion project and I feel really, really passionate about it. And you guys are still here because you believe in it as much as I do. And that makes it such a group effort. So it's not my podcast. Like, it's very well our podcast, including everyone who's been on it, everyone who follows the Instagram, everyone who listens to it weekly, or even everyone who listens to it one time. Like, all the support is so appreciated. So it very well is a group effort, because again, we learn from each other, you know?
I guess we all just have that music mentality.
It's true.
I love a good dad joke.
So I guess kind of going off of what Aileen just asked you, thank you very much, by the way, for all those lovely words of appreciation. It's amazing to be here with you on this journey and to be able to like see you grow and grow along with you, and really like always feel like it is partly my project. Like, I love Music Mentality. I'm so passionate about it, and it's because of the passion that you have for it.
Oh, Meg!
And so, like, I'm wondering, you talked about how rewarding it was having conversations with these artists. Is there anything anyone said that has really stuck with you in your day-to-day life?
Oh my God, so many things. I can't even like pinpoint one specific thing. I think personally, the first thing that comes to my mind is the definition of success, because so many different artists have different definitions of success, but they all come down to the same common denominator, which is just progress and being proud of yourself. And again, like at the beginning of this journey, I did not view success in that way. I wanted to. I knew I consciously wanted to view it that way, but in my soul, that is not how I felt. So I must say, I think that's one of the things that stood out to me the most. I always say this, but like I didn't realize that how many people really agreed with me, but like how heartbreak isn't limited to significant others, and like music can be heartbreaking, and your journey to success, or whatever you call it, success, that can be so heartbreaking and challenging and difficult. So like I think that those are the few things that stuck with me the most, and I've been really fortunate to have so many artists be so vulnerable and open up, and like I realized that the best thing an artist, but anyone can do, is to help themselves and be honest with themselves, because like, you know, you could come on this show and be like, "Oh, you know, don't worry, it'll be okay. Try again." And like, you know, quote an Instagram quote. But the best way to help people, that, or at least to help me from my experience, was to hear these artists' true stories, the quote unquote ugly feelings, the stories that, you know, are difficult to hear, are not fun to share, the things that, you know, Hollywood doesn't really present. We just see the aftermath. We don't see how challenging it really is. We don't see how our mental health suffers in the pursuit of fixing our mental health. Like, it is a difficult journey. It is not linear. So when an artist comes on here and they're like, yeah, like, I've had family died. I've had friends die. I've turned to like alcohol. I've turned to drugs. I've turned to like anything and everything. And like, I still don't know what to do sometimes. That alone makes me realize that, you know, we're not alone, and there's different people out there who feel that way, and that is what builds the community. But to say that, you know, everything's going to be okay, to be honest, a lot of us know it's going to be okay. That's not what the point is. The point is right now it's not okay. So what do we do about right now?
It's so true. I think storytelling is like a huge part and a really important part of this whole podcast. I mean, it's kind of the basis of it. You've like given that platform for people to talk and tell their stories. Do you feel like a lot of these artists have similar storylines and similar struggles?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, so many. Honestly, each one of these stories have been so incredibly different, but there have been similarities. Again, when it comes, like, touring experiences, for example, like some of the artists that I've interviewed that have gone on tour, you know, I don't think I've ever really heard any artist say, I genuinely like it, because it is hard. I didn't realize that, you know, you're basically living out of a bus the whole time. In my head, I thought it was a lot more glamorous than that. I thought it was from hotel to hotel, 5-star hotels, you know, everyone buying you drinks and food is always covered, and like this like glamorous Hollywood lifestyle. That is not what happens. That's not even what happens with like later down the line often. I mean, maybe eventually. I don't know. I've never interviewed Beyonce, but like like getting there, it is difficult to do your makeup on a moving bus, to fall asleep on a bus that is like claustrophobic and hot and constantly shaking. So
yeah, and I think it's really cool how you're interviewing like small artists, because we don't really you're giving small artists a platform to tell their stories and talk about their struggles. Like, we often talk to artists when they've already achieved an enormous amount of success. So this podcast is so special to hear those people talk, and like musicians or aspiring musicians can listen to it and feel inspired by it and like relate to it. Like, these stories are so relatable, and you can tell that that's true by like hearing all these artists present similar stories and struggles, and you relate to them as an artist.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's empowering for you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we're all little guys at the beginning. Like, I really do want to, like, I think that's something that even if this were to take off and be like the most successful thing in the world, like, I think that giving small artists, small people, a voice is so freaking important, because you got artists that are so talented, that have incredibly deep stories, but they might not have the accessibility or the resources to make it big. They might not, you know, they might have not taken that step yet, or they might not even be pursuing music at the end of the day, but they're still insanely talented and still have so much to share, and they're still an artist or musician at the end of the day. You don't have to pursue music to be a musician. So like, to hear these different stories is so inspiring. And I think that I'm a small guy, you know, so everyone who's giving this podcast a listen is supporting a small guy. And like, I think that it's an important practice to keep it up, because we're all small guys.
Yes, it's so true. And I'm sure your story right now, like people are going to relate to this. People who want to have their own podcast will relate to this.
Aw, I hope it inspires people.
I think it already has.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys.
What do you hope that the audience takes away from all of this?
I don't think there's one thing that I want the audience to take away from this, because I don't know what it would be. Because at the end of the day, each artist has such a different story to bring to the table, and we're all in such different places in our lives and overcoming such different things that it's like, you know, to say that there's one goal, I don't think that's necessarily feasible. Again, I can sit here and say, you know, you're not alone, because you're not alone. We're all a community. There are people out there who are going through the same struggles, but that is just such a general thing to say. So I don't really know what I want each individual to take out of this podcast, except for exactly that. We're a community, and, you know, keep reaching out to people, man. But I don't know, because I can tell you individually which artist has taught me what. I mean, I'm not going to, because I can't say that off the top of my head, but like every artist brings something different to the table that the audience can take away for a different like lesson. Every episode has a different moral of the story, essentially.
Well, maybe,
I mean, every episode is a story of its own.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, do you want to dive into one specific story or moment that really touched you this season with an artist?
Oh my God. No, you guys, because sometimes, like, I'll come out of an interview crying. I'll literally be like, holy shit, like, that was such an amazing interview. I learned so much. I empathize with this person so much. To see them have the strength that they have, I'm inspired to have strength as well. So I've been honestly touched by most, if not all, of the people who have been on this podcast. They have all taught me something. Off the top of my head, like, nah. I can't answer one thing, because each story has touched me in such immense ways.
So you bring up that there were often times where at the end of an interview you would come out of that crying. So obviously from the episodes as you listen to them, everyone is being incredibly vulnerable, and yourself included. Has it been challenging to be that vulnerable, and how have you overcome these challenges?
Oh my God, that's a good question. Do you guys see my support system? Like, these are the people who inspire me every day. Vulnerability. I'm gonna compare confrontation to what I told you guys about earlier. I've had this conversation with each one of these people individually, but having a conversation that is vulnerable, honestly, is comparable to sex. It is intimate. It is vulnerable. It is difficult.
For sure.
To strip yourself of your guards and come onto a podcast, knowing it's going to be public. It is difficult. And honestly, there's a lot of things that I haven't shared. I'm like 99% sure that the artists that have been on the show, they haven't shared everything. So I totally understand, you know, them being a little bit hesitant to really opening up. But that being said, I briefly touched on it earlier, like, the best thing any artist can do is to be open and vulnerable, but that is difficult. So I think that the most influential episodes to me personally have been the ones where the artists have put their trust into this community, into this podcast, and have like dived into taking us through a journey in their shoes rather than recounting what they've gone through as a story. And that is a difficult thing to do. I haven't done it. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but props to the artists who have, because that is a difficult thing to do.
It is. It's so difficult to go up there and be vulnerable like that. I mean, it's one thing to write a song that's vulnerable. I mean, that is difficult, of course, but there's always a little bit of ambiguity to it.
Yeah.
But telling your story is something totally different.
Yeah.
And that's why people love listening. You know,
Yeah.
They get to hear about what truly inspires these artists and what they're struggling with. You know.
And in terms of like overcoming that vulnerability and like being able to share, again, like, I haven't entirely, but that being said, I think it's a two-way street. when an artist starts being vulnerable, it's easy for me to be vulnerable. Knowing that this is still going to be public and like people I don't know are going to be listening to it, that is the scary part. But in the moment, it's just trusting that we are like-minded people and we are building and we are like fostering this safe space to just come as we are. And that is, I guess, to answer your earlier question, that is the goal at the end of the day, for everyone to come as they are, regardless of where they've been, regardless of what they look like, come as they are, you know, like celebrate how far they've come, celebrate who they are, celebrate their success, which is how far they've come, because every single artist has to come far. Even artists who have to start, even people who have to start off from square one all over again have come far, because, you know, a lot of things in the entertainment and arts industry, or in other industries as well, is trial and error. So, you know, when you try one thing and it didn't work out, that's already, you're further along than you were before.
So going back to what we were talking about in terms of success, I feel like as a listener, I learned so much about that from the artists that you listen to, because it's like, wow, there's so many different ways that you can make it in the music industry. I mean, we think that success in the music industry is being Beyonce. Mm-hmm. There's only one Beyonce, but there's like different ways to be successful in this industry. I mean, you can be super happy being a piano teacher and like performing on the side, you know? You can be like happy performing at festivals, and you can find joy in different things. It doesn't need to be so big and grand, you know? Like, there's just, I mean, success is so many different things.
It is. Success is so many different things. And like, I actually talked about this with a recent artist that I interviewed that is going to be part of season 2. But like, there is only one Beyonce. If you're aiming to be Beyonce, first of all, who says that that is the most successful? Because there are so many different genres of music. For someone who listens to heavy metal, they probably don't think that Beyonce is the epitome of success, you know? Because they don't listen to Beyonce. So there's so many different markers of success, so many different points to hit. And also, climbing this ladder, I put quotes around ladder, I mean, where are you climbing it towards? Because everyone has a different end goal, and it's okay to not want to be Ariana Grande or Beyonce. You can be happy wherever you are, and like you said so well, that is success. Just that progress, getting to wherever it is you want to be, not necessarily being a billionaire or touring around the world or like having millions of followers. Mind you, I get it, a lot of people do want that, but you know, I feel like having that is also a struggle of its own, because every single point of success has different struggles. So if you're going to idolize Billie Eilish to the point where you want to be her, well, you're not going to be her, and you're not ever going to be happy until you stop wanting to be her. And if you're never going to be happy, then you're never going to feel successful. So where are you climbing that ladder to? Because you're not ever going to see the top of it, you know?
It's so true.
No, that was really beautiful.
Yeah, Meg, you've been a little silent.
Well, I don't know.
Awkward laugh.
I don't know what to say to that. I don't think anyone who is quiet knows what to say to that when someone points it out.
That's so true.
It's also important to note that a lot of these artists are making money off of what they're doing and the work that they're putting out. I mean, there's different there's so many ways to make money in this world, which is also a lesson that I learned listening to this podcast. And that's also so empowering, you know? Like, these people are so creative, and it's just really fun listening to how they like use their creative energy in their careers.
Yeah, and again, yeah, there's so many different ways to make money. Like, I've been teaching piano. I remember interviewing someone who works at like the Rogers Center. One person I interviewed was a small performer in like different bars, and like she would like reach out to all these different bars. So there are so many different ways. That being said, there are also so many different ways to be taken advantage of. So I think that to respect yourself as a human being is such an important thing in this industry, because it is so easy to be taken advantage of. And I've interviewed artists who have been taken advantage of as well. And it's not fair. It's not fair. Most artists, they do deserve more, because if you're not working a 9 to 5 and you choose to live the life of an artist, you're working 24/7 and you're getting paid like $5 an hour or whatever it is, if you're not carefully respecting yourself. So it is really, really difficult. But that being said, I think that the industry is so wide and there's so many different potentials in it. Everything is an opportunity. So, if you can teach an instrument, teach an instrument. If you can work in an atmosphere where there are people who are like-minded like you, even honestly, Meg, like when you worked at Starbucks, I was so inspired to work at Starbucks because there's so many creative people working there, like you meet people who are creatives all the time and you are inspired by them and all of a sudden you're working together. Like Meg, when I first met you, I was so excited to live together because I was like, oh my God, like Aileen had mentioned that you're a singer and like you write music, and all of a sudden we're constantly writing music together. Like the intro to this podcast was one that we wrote together. Like you're inspired by people, you make connections, you make friends, you grow within the industry. So anywhere can be an opportunity. So I don't think you should ever limit yourself to being like, I am only gonna, be successful when I'm making millions, when I'm performing at Madison Square Garden, because that's not, you don't jump from A to Z like that,
It's true.
It is very true. Honestly, actually, that kind of reminds me of something that's been very impressive to watch as you have been doing this. But you, as someone who is a self-made, like, your podcast is self-made. You created this. You started off with a bachelor degree in political science and made this degree, and made this podcast having no real ties, I guess, or community in the music industry because you hadn't really stepped foot in it yet. And so watching you do this and watching you like send your talent release forms and be like, I am Angie and this is my podcast has been really amazing, but I'm sure really challenging at times, especially when you have been talking to artists who have like a good amount of listeners and have a bit of a platform. What has that been like for you?
Well, first of all, y'all already know what I'm about to say. My sister knows, my family knows, everyone knows. My motto throughout this entire podcast has been 6 degrees of separation. We are all connected.
She only started this podcast to meet young blood.
That's the real reason, guys.
Yeah, so when I interview him one day, this podcast is done. No, I'm just kidding. But I was really inspired by Youngblood, though, because he has a podcast that's very similar, talking about mental health, and he sings about politics and mental health all the time. So honestly, he was such a huge source of inspiration for this podcast. But that being said, like, throughout all of these months, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I'll start off with my friends, and then I'll move on to their friends, and then I'll move on to their friends, and that's how it'll happen. And I don't know if anyone even wants to be interested. Like, honestly, the biggest challenge, again, like, I still do this, but I will be scrolling through TikTok, commenting on artists, being like, oh my God, love your voice, love your story, be a guest.
There was one point where Ange had back-to-back, like, so many interviews scheduled that she didn't have time to continue doing her homework and studying for her exams that she was in the middle of writing, and she would be like, oh, I just found this new artist, like, I think I'm just gonna, like, DM them.
I did. I slipped into so many DMs.
Oh my God, so many. And meanwhile, like, Aileen and I are sitting here being like, girl,
study for your exam.
You got work to do, girl.
I know. It would, like, be addicting.
Yeah. You actually, I think, had to tell me, like, please stop me from... We had to create a rule. We had to create a rule that there was only, like, one obscure genre that you hadn't really interviewed anyone in. And, like, there were... If you hadn't interviewed them and they were an artist in that genre, you could reach out to them, but otherwise you weren't allowed.
We also went beyond TikTok, though. Like, we have our own business cards now.
Yeah.
Very bougie. Okay. She also put a lot of thought into that. And we, like, go to concerts out in Toronto and, like, try to scout people out.
Yeah, like, the recruiting process has become a business of its own.
It has.
And I think that's so fun.
Honestly, it is fun. You meet so many cool people, like... Oh my God, I'm interviewing someone next week that Aileen went to go see with her sister, and she's like, Ange, like, this is such a cool artist. You gotta interview her. You gotta interview her.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I still do it all the time. I'm like scrolling through TikTok and I'm like, oh my God, comment, go through Instagram, DM, do they have an email? Email. And I've like gotten pretty great artists, but I think that the most recent, little rewarding point has been people reaching out to me and asking to be on the show, which is like, whoa, I'm not used to that. That's nice. That's kind of like really nice because I know that people are listening and they're interested and they want to share their stories to the point where they're reaching out.
Share their stories with you. I think you need to give yourself a little bit more credit. I think that the space you have created is very safe and secure and really gives artists a comfortable place where they can share these stories.
Thanks, guys.
So it's like there's like a warmth to you that everybody feels, and it's really obvious. Like in your interviews, like you're an empath and you genuinely care about their stories, and you like challenge these artists to like believe in themselves. And it's so great. It's really, I get that experience all the time being your friend. But it's like really nice seeing you give that to strangers.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you for like giving me the credit that I should be giving myself when I can't give it to myself.
Literally anytime, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys, but yeah, just people reaching out. That's like so amazing, whether it's to reach out and be like, I'm inspired by your show, or like artists emailing me being like, hey, we listened to your show, like we have another artist that would be interested in being on it with you. That's like a kind of imposter syndrome right now, because like sometimes I can't even believe it, because I'm like, whoa, whether they're big or small artists, it's just such a whoa. And like I can see this community growing. I can see people listening, and I can like see people having conversations and people connecting and creating music, creating art, and opening up and making realizations. Like, wow.
Yeah, like creating a podcast that's so much about like mental health in the music industry. What do you think about the music industry? Do you think it's a hard place mentally to be in?
Oh yeah, like 100,000 times. Yeah, it is. Honestly, sometimes I question whether or not I should even be in it myself, and I'm not even fully in it. But it is such a competitive industry. It is mean a lot of the time, and like not constructive criticism mean, just flat out mean. And like people hate a lot, and people will hate if you are, for example, creating music that isn't the genre that they listen to. And at that point it's like, yo, just don't listen to the music then. It's not your genre, and it's just so competitive, and easily like you can be taken advantage of so easily because you're constantly torn. You're like, should I take this opportunity? Should I take that opportunity? Should I spend my time and my energy creating this or doing that, knowing that it's gonna pay next to none, if it pays anything at all? But like, I know I need the experience. I know I need to build up my portfolio. At what point is your portfolio done and ready, and you can start being like, I need to make an income? Because again, yes, you can be doing this from the comfort of your bedroom and like not be making anything, and instead be working a 9-to-5 job. That's totally fine. So many people want to do that, and they're, like I said at the beginning, they are still artists just as much. They are still musicians. That being said, like there should be opportunities for people in the music industry to make it in the music industry without like working 24/7 constantly, subjecting themselves to ridiculous things, ridiculous incomes next to nothing, and like getting their art stolen, putting themselves out there, being vulnerable just for like hatred and lack of connections. It's a difficult industry, and it needs to be so much nicer, because the matter of the fact is, the way that I see it is that there is enough success. There is enough space for success for everyone in this industry. Like,
so true.
Everyone. Again, like if you like heavy metal, you're not gonna compare Marilyn Manson to Beyonce. They are both their own forms of success. There's so many genres. There's so many different jobs you can do. There's so many different things you can do. So many different ways you can write. You can be a producer. You can DJ. Like, there's just so many different things. So to be this competitive and be like, no, only one person can be on top, that's just silly.
I know. But like this, there is definitely competitiveness in the music industry, but I think it's also important to note, like, how helpful these artists have been, like how open they are to helping other people.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
like
yeah.
the community that you have like connected with, like they're always like they talk about their other artist friends and how they support each other. And like it's true, like nobody just makes a song and puts it out. Like there's people who inspire that person, that artist. There's producers that work on that track, you know? There's maybe a writer who writes that track. It's just like, it's a group process, and there's so much more success to have when you work collaboratively.
Oh yeah. Like I've been very fortunate. I've met so many cool people, so many kind-hearted people who are more than willing to help. But I've also met the opposite, and I know each one of the people I've interviewed have met people who just, you know, will purposely put a wedge in their path or try their best to, you know, stop that success. Even honestly, even random people commenting on TikToks being mean. Like that is, again, why are you doing that? You're just hindering their success because what, you think that they don't deserve it? So that's the mean part. But that being said, I think that another thing I've learned in this process is to never be afraid to ask for help. Because the matter of the fact is, not everyone's going to help. But the few people that you meet that do help, that become a part of your support system, that have so much knowledge and experience and advice to share, all the hate is worth it when it comes to those people. Because you won't even think about the hate at that point. I mean, maybe you will, but like at the end of the day, there are nice people out there, and there are people who want successful for others as well. So I think it's always worth it to reach out and ask for help. I mean, mind you, I freaking joined tons of Facebook groups, and I'm like, hey, you guys, you know,
Anne
like
is the master at networking. Like
She is.
Yeah, she just knows exactly. She's not afraid to ask for help, and that is literally why this whole podcast was created. I mean, that's literally why Meg and I jumped on board.
I love you guys.
And it's really fun helping you. And, like, look at what we've created. Like, we're all so proud of it.
And it's so rewarding.
It is.
Oh, my God.
It is.
What has been the most rewarding part for you guys?
The most rewarding part for me is, one, seeing your joy in all of this. And two, also just, like, listening to these people have, like, really relatable stories. And listening, like, I get emotional sometimes listening to these podcasts. Like, oh my God, Michaela's episode literally brought me to tears.
Shout out to Michaela.
Shout out to Parsa, Meg and my BFF. We love you, Parsa.
Hi,
if you're
Parsa.
listening. Oh, and shout out to Kusha, who listens, his brother. It's also so cool how literally, like, our friends, like, listen to this. Our friends care about it.
Oh my God, yeah. When we went to, like, a St. Patrick's Day party, you know, I met people who I've never even met before who are like, oh, yo, like, I listened to your podcast. And I'm like, bro, thanks.
I know. It's like, it's rewarding to feel like what you care about, other people care about it too, you know?
So rewarding.
It is. For me, I'd say the most rewarding part is definitely, like, seeing the interactions with the artists and hearing the stories that you come back with after interviewing these people, and, like, listening to the connections that you've been able to make. Like, you very truly have been making friendships, I feel like, with a lot of the artists that you're interviewing, and that has been very rewarding. And also, it's just so rewarding to see how much it means to you when other people care. Like, that in and of itself is, like, a gift, like, to see how happy you get, how excited you are, and how passionate you are.
It's so true.
Your passion fuels this project, and it makes,
so
I'm gonna speak for both of us here, Aileen, but it makes us want to be a part of it.
No, it's so true. It's so true.
It is a project that, like, I wholeheartedly believe in. Again, like, I'm a very impulsive person. I start and finish projects and hobbies so impulsively, but music has been my longest project. And
this actually brings me to one of my questions. Consistency has been so important for you through this since day one. It has been, if I'm going to do this, I am going to be consistent. And holy shit, have you been fucking consistent.
Yeah, I've been, like, difficultly.
To the point where it could honestly be not annoying, but
I could say it. It's been we had to turn around on like
had to turn around on road trips to go back to be able to make sure we can post Music Mentality. How have you managed to stay consistent? What is the secret to it, do you think? What has been the biggest challenge with it, and what has made it the easiest for you to stick to your consistency?
To be honest, a part of my consistency doesn't come from a healthy place. I think that the reason I stay so consistent is because if I stop being consistent, it won't feel real anymore. And as long as I'm being consistent, it feels real. And as long as it feels real, I feel motivated to keep going. So I think that, like, I don't know how healthy that is or how unhealthy that is, but because, like, at the end of the day, you got to give yourself a break as well. And you know, it's our podcast, it's our project. We could do whatever we want with it. But like for me, posting on Saturday at 12 p.m. every single week, 3 posts on Instagram every single week, like that consistency is and was so important to me because, again, like if I stop, I know myself, and if I stop, I'll feel comfortable in not going anymore, and I'll make excuses for myself without even realizing that I'm making excuses for myself. And all of a sudden, I'm not doing what I'm passionate about anymore. And I don't want to ever blame other people for my lack of pursuing my passions. Because if I'm stopping, then I'm choosing to stop. And I could choose to start again. But for me, starting again is harder than not stopping.
Yeah, I feel like you just echo the sentiment of a lot of artists. Like, I feel like this is a common feeling that a lot of artists feel, like consistency is kind of like a drug. It's like once you're on, and that's kind of how burnout happens. You know?
Yeah, and it often from like, I mean, you see YouTubers talk about it all the time, is how it becomes very demanding from your fans that they want you to stay consistent and that it's important to them for you to stay consistent. Mm-hmm. And I think that this kind of loops back to one of the points you made earlier, where when you're an artist, your job is kind of 24/7. Because for me, when I get home after work, like my phone is off, I cannot be reached. But for you at 12 p.m. on a Saturday, you have to be posting.
That's true.
You're right. And I think that rest is a pretty big topic. Like, you guys know that rest is a huge topic for me these last, I don't know how many months, because a lot of artists have taught me what rest is, but I still don't embody it. I still don't really know how to rest. So it's still a work in progress. It's still something that I'm learning. But yeah, I think that the life of an artist or anyone in the entertainment industry is very susceptible to burnout.
Yeah, and I feel like listening to these like artist stories and listening to what you just said, you know, we just have to be easier on people. Like, people have lives, people have feelings, you know, like it's hard, and we have to.
People
are people. Yeah, we need to be easier on people, you know, like a topic that I know you've talked about on the podcast, and you and I have talked about, Meg, has been like how it's so insane how when artists like are burning out when they're physically ill, they still push their boundaries and keep performing, you know? So I feel like you offering this platform for small artists to talk about like their burnouts and their mental health struggles, like really gives like fans the opportunity to like listen, empathize, and like understand what it's like to be an artist, you know?
And I feel like, you know, this expectation to push past the burnout, to push past the pain, you know, perform with a broken foot, perform with a cold when you can't even sing, quite frankly, like all of these different expectations that we set for ourselves, but also fans, and a lot of artists that I've interviewed called their fans friends, which I find very endearing and I love. So a lot of fans, though, will put that expectation on the artists. I don't think friends would do that.
I agree.
So I think that at a certain point, that is why you know, we look at big celebrities and we forget that they're people, because not only have they put this expectation on themselves at the very beginning, their fans have as well from the very beginning, and that has become who they are. So you lose your sense of humanity, you lose the fact that you're a person and you're allowed to feel tired and you're allowed to burn out. So by the time that you're this big performing artist performing at all these different venues, you are not a person anymore.
You're a commodity.
Yeah, you're not allowed to be. You're a product of capitalism, bro.
It's so true, but like, look at us. We're literally the younger generation. You're interviewing a lot of younger people who are like more conscious of their mental health than we've ever let people be in society. So I think that it's also like something to be inspired by, you know, that we're having these conversations. We're making it not taboo to have these conversations. So props to you.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Props to you, because again, like all these realizations, we come to them together.
What can we expect out of season 2?
Okay, so season 2. Oh my freaking God. I am more than halfway done recording season 2. Soon gonna start recording season 3, which is only gonna come in like February. And we have plans. Miss Social Media Manager over here has plans for season 3. And we haven't even released season 2. This is the wrap up of season 1. So like we are thinking ahead, while still trying to stay in the moment, of course. But season 2, oh my God, such great artists, such inspiring stories. I feel like season 2, I feel a lot more comfortable. I'm sharing a lot more about myself, which is not something I did in season 1. I'm feeling a lot more, you know, season 1 has inspired me in that everyone is going through something. Everyone has struggles. So to share my struggles, it's okay, because people are going to go through struggles, regardless of their political beliefs even. People struggle. So I'm allowed to struggle too. And I feel like in season 2, I open up about myself a little bit more, which I think in turn does inspire a lot of the artists to open up about themselves. Season 2 has already made me cry so many times. Like, I won't cry during the interviews, but as soon as I'm done, I'm like, Meg, Aileen.
The most rewarding part of all this is like getting a text being like, oh my God, that interview was so good. I was about to swear, but I was like, oh, should I?
No, bro, I've been swearing. Don't worry.
But
swear all the fuck you want.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, but just getting that text from you, and I've gotten so many of those texts in season 2, guys, for season 2.
I am so excited. Season 2, like, I'm excited. As I mentioned, the artists. I'm excited about me opening up. I am so excited for so many different things. I'm just so excited, and I'm hoping to like, by season 3 at least, to be able to reconnect with some of the artists from season 1, and
that'll be so fun.
I know, like, get a little life update with where they are now. So that's gonna be so exciting, and a few bigger names, dare I say. So yeah, that's what I have to say about season 2. Just, it continues on, it gets deeper, it gets, I was gonna say better, but I don't want to say it gets better per se, because I mean the artists that have been on here have definitely been amazing.
And we'll hopefully be on here again one day.
Yeah, and hopefully be again. But I guess, you know what? We all get better. We're always getting better. So I guess that is fair to say.
Yeah. I think that maybe what you're trying to say more so is that through this journey you've learned a lot and you're excited to apply what you've learned.
Meg, you just
Exactly.
you just framed my words in the way that they need to be framed. So thank you. She does do that. You both do that.
You do that too, bro.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
We do it for each other.
I feel like this whole episode is just us
Love
thanking
fest.
each other. Yeah, love fest.
It's one big love fest.
I mean, this is us constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, I think that's where I want to wrap it up. So thank you guys so much for interviewing me, for picking my brain, for letting me ponder on everything that I've learned and everything we've been through.
Thank you for letting us.
Yeah.
This was so fun, and I'm sure it must have been really weird for you to be in the other
so
seat
weird.
in the hot seat.
I'm like, oh my God, is
Yeah.
this how they feel?
Man, you have 3 people in your office during this podcast.
I know.
Hopefully, maybe in season 2, you'll do more in-person interviews. That would be fun.
That would be really fun. I would have to invest in the microphone. 2 chairs don't even fit into this office. Meg is sitting on a table. I'm standing, and Aileen is switching between sitting and standing.
Currently,
So
I'm using Aileen's chair as a footrest. So
yeah. So she has a small office, but she does the trick. But hopefully it'd be really cool to have people in person, definitely. And I mean, Meg, you were the one who was like, let us interview you. So thank you. This was originally just going to be like a solo project where I don't even know how I was going to do it, but I was just going to go over everything on my own. Again, don't know how I was going to do that, but I was going to figure out a way. So you guys have made this so much more feasible and so much better. And you guys have made me think of things I wouldn't have thought of on my own.
Thanks for having us. This has been so much fun.
I love you guys.
I love you.